Dog without a leash, run!
Tomas, Edge!
Hey Tuberonis, this week I wanted to talk about my dog phobia. A phobia is a persistent irrational fear to a specific object, activity, or situation that leads to a compelling desire to avoid it. So that pretty much sums up my current situation with dogs. And while I realize that the fear is mainly irrational and that you can't be mistrustful of all dogs, unfortunately I was bitten by 3 large dogs, so those experiences significantly contributed to my fear of them. So the first dog I was bitten by was my best friend from grade school's dog. I believe it was a rescue dog, and I think it was a German Shepherd mix. So our family didn't grow up in the company of dogs. We had other pets like fish, and I had newts and frogs and things like that. We had birds. We had a rabbit at one point, but we never had a dog. So I was a little bit uncomfortable going over my friend's house after I found out that they had just gotten a dog. But they assured me that, once you got to know the dog, everything should be fine. I must admit, I entered the situation very cautiously. I just slowly let it sniff me each day I was there. And then over time, I would eventually start petting it. And then after a while, we started to develop some trust between each other and a bond. And so every time I'd come in, the dog would come running to me and it'd want my attention. It'd want me to pet it. So one day when my friend and I were leaving to walk to school, I was the last one out the door and the dog came running at me and grabbed my leg and bit it. And so I was like, whoa, I was very shocked that this dog would do this to me. So I pulled up my pant leg and I noticed that I had a hole in my leg from the dog's canine tooth and it was bleeding. It wasn't gushing blood, but it was bleeding enough. So that experience set the foundation for my fear of dogs. It started to instill some fear in me because I trusted this dog and I felt I had a bond, and then it did this to me. So I felt, how could I trust other dogs that I don't know not to do this to me? So the second time I was bitten was when my same friend and I were walking to school, and we passed this house that had 6 Rottweilers, and they kind of had a rep in the neighborhood where they were known to get out and cause some ruckus or cause some problems. I would see them often in the schoolyard, across the street. I don't know how they got out because the fence that they were caged in was pretty high. I think it was taller than traditional wired fences. So how these dogs got out, I have no clue. But we were walking to school one day and there was 3 of them loose, and I saw them from the distance and I froze, and my friend was like, don't worry, just don't show fear and just don't run. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try to tackle this fear that I have from that past experience with their dog. And so we walked forward, and then one of the larger Rottweilers came up to me, and I thought it was just going to sniff me, but it came up and it literally just grabbed my arm. It just bit me, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh. Luckily, there was the neighbor next door. She was in her car, and she was kind of watching as we were walking by, because I think she had an idea that these dogs were trouble. So I ran over there. She's like, do you want to get in the car? And I was like, yes, please, let me in. And so then my friend got in the car and she drove us to school, and I had to go to the hospital and get tetanus shots, and I had to miss our field trip. So that experience really started to solidify my fear of dogs, because those dogs were very large. I mean, on their hind legs, they were taller than me. They probably weighed more than me at that point. And so I really, really started to not trust dogs, especially loose dogs, especially dogs I didn't know, and especially large dogs. So after that, my dad wanted to settle this situation in court, but my mom was like, we could just settle it on our own personally. And the lady then, paid me a sum of money for the damages the dog bite caused me. And so we had a running joke, because every time I wanted something that I didn't have money for, my dad and mom would be like, well, how are you going to get it? And I was like, well, I have my dog bite money. That was kind of a positive thing out of it, in the sense that I got a little extra cash in my pocket to buy a few things that I needed throughout the years. But it was just, it wasn't a very huge sum of money. But either way, that experience really started to make me fear dogs. So the third time I was bitten was by my best friend's dog again, but this time it was a different dog, and it was I believe, pit bull mix. I honestly didn't come around my friend's house as often after I was bitten by the first dog, but I happened to stop by and I was introduced to this new dog, and the dog just came running up to me And I don't know if it was just happy or playful or what, but it jumped up and literally snapped at my eye, and it grazed my eye to where it just scratched it, the lid and then the underlid. So it didn't get my eye, luckily, but that really solidified fear in me with dogs, because I was like, what is going on here? You know, every time I come in contact with a larger dog, they come at me, they bite me. And I know that third one wasn't as significant as the first two, but it was enough to like kind of knock me over the edge and be very fearful of dogs. Stay away from me, dogs! Stay away! You aren't welcome to feast on my flesh, okay? I'm not a free buffet here. So to this day, I'm very avoidant of dogs. I have an extra sense where I hear anything jingling, I'll look around and I'll be like, is it a loose dog? Is it a dog without a leash? You know, I will be very aware of my surroundings when walking in public places, because I'm very fearful that there'll be a large dog loose or without a leash. Even sometimes dogs on leashes I avoid as well, because I see the owner, you know, walking them with a leash, but I could see that dog is easily controlling the owner, and that if they wanted to, they could just pull that owner, you know, if they wanted to attack somebody. It's funny because I saw a meme where it shows dog phobia, and there's a person like clinging to a tree, like high up on a tree, and then there's a dog barking. And I feel like that's just how I am. Like if a dog came after me, I would want to run to find somewhere that I could climb up to, or, you know, grab onto, or be safe, you know, from a loose dog, when the dog might just be barking to say hello or to see you, you know, or happy to see another person. But, you know, to me, it's very real. It's very, very, very scary when there's a loose dog in my presence. As far as small dogs, I would say that I'm a little bit better with them, but I still must admit I'm a little cautious even with them on leashes, because they could get all riled up. I mean, those dogs aren't exempt to biting people either. I feel like I have a little bit more of a stance against them if they were to come at me. So my question is, does anyone have a phobia themselves? And if they do, what is it? As usual, I hope everyone had a great week. And until next time, stay away from me, dogs! Stay away!